What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over a very interesting clip that was actually revealed today on Life is Strange Double Exposure. It has got a lot of people very, very worried. I want to go over kind of both sides of the argument, and I want to give you guys just this theory of, okay, if they were to break up, if Max and Chloe were to break up, I think it's possible you can get away with it. Now, I'm going to talk, we're going to get into what I mean by that, but let's go over the clip first, and there's no better way than to just show it to you.
Being able to rewind time has only caused me more problems and more heartbreak.
Okay, so a few things to keep in mind here, right, when you see the clip. Number one, that is the picture. We're still kind of going by that Life is Strange 2 picture, and it's important to know that because this picture is taken after the ending of 1, right? So, okay, when we start to, come up with these theories and the speculation, right? Obviously, if she's dead, she's dead. You don't really have to worry about, much with that. Okay, if she's alive, I actually think we are showing a version, one of the only time, very few, right, that we're actually seeing the timeline where Chloe lives. Now, that's my personal opinion. I think it has to be that way, though, right? Because, again, Max wouldn't have this picture with her if Chloe was dead. It literally would not be possible. A couple other things to talk about. The blue hair, people were a little upset about that. From what I've seen online, and I mean, I don't dye my hair, at least not yet, maybe when it goes gray, but blue goes into green when it kind of fades away. So there's really no reason to panic, on that one. Although I do believe they actually did change it, because if you look at kind of, again, the origin picture that we're all kind of going based off with this one, it was all green. You can see green in the back of it, but the front of it's blue now. So, whatever. That one to me is not that big of a deal. The bigger deal is what Max says, right? Now, a couple other things to put into context. Number one, what has been figured out is this is part of a scene where she's, kind of putting together almost like a bulletin of sorts, maybe some sort of parallel to what she had in her dorm room in Life is Strange 1, but she's putting these pictures up, and this is right after Safi dies. So she's thinking about grief, or experiencing it, you know what I mean? She's going through these things, and then she says something like this. Now, the thing that's really tough with me, right, is she can only really be talking about two different things. She can be talking about the grief that saving Chloe has caused her or both of them because of the loss of the town. Okay, that is one way, I think, of looking at that line. She's specifically talking about, hey, I made the decision, I saved Chloe, but I'm experiencing quite a bit from, losing out on everybody else. The other way of looking at it is that something happened between the two of them, and now, I want to take this theory a little bit further as we go in this video, but specifically the wording of it, I feel like if you go down this path, something might have happened. Something additional might have happened in between, I guess, Life is Strange 2 and Double Exposure that caused them to break up, and that's what Max is kind of talking about. The only other thing I really want to throw in terms of context before I go over my personal opinion is they've been misleading. And we've talked about this, they're really not showing a lot of stuff past episode 2, maybe episode 3. They also, I feel like, are putting words in different situations, which is, kind of something we see more often with movies than we do games. Last of Us Part 2 is one that kind of comes to mind where they really tried, and I actually don't think that worked out. I'm not a fan, I'll tell you this. When it comes to misleading, especially in games, I'll stick to kind of what I know and what I'm good at. I'm not a big fan. I don't think it normally ends well. I feel like you market the game for what it is. If you're trying to push a certain message, then show those parts, right? But to kind of mess with, because it does seem like that's what's happening, right? Words are being said, or they're taking words from other parts of the game and they're putting it with different actions, right? We talked about this with the TGS trailer, where they talk about have you ever fallen for the wrong person? And it makes it look a certain way, but it's well, Max isn't the one saying it, and honestly, you don't even know if that moment when she's sitting there contemplating, you don't even know if that's when she gets asked it. So I would not be shocked. It could easily be it because she's always thinking, right? Her thoughts are very loud, and you hear them, which is a good thing, I think. Makes her kind of unique. But it could easily be something she's thinking as she's looking at the picture that moment, or it could be another trick, honestly. So, okay, my personal opinion. I don't want to say it. I really, really don't. My prediction, as we get closer and closer, more and more becomes that they did break up. I feel like it's the easiest thing for Deck 9 to do. I also think it's a very bad thing for them to do. Okay. I think I can hold both opinions. I feel like I can say that, if you're developing the game and you don't want Chloe kind of messing with, I mean, like the idea of Chloe, right? Say you're the game developers. I mean, an easy way around it is you write her out. Now, in one ending, you have a way out. In the other ending, you don't. But if you just break them up, then you're good. So, again, I'm not saying that's the right move. I'm saying that's an easy move. Now, in terms of, like, is this scene, like, saying kind of what I think it is, for me, it really depends on, like those two branches I was talking about earlier. She's either talking about like the town and the grief that all goes with it, or see, my theory of how you could make this breakup work actually involves that. So let me walk you through an idea that I've been thinking of for a little while. I think this kind of sprung it into action. If you were to tell me that Max and Chloe broke up, and if you tell me in the game, I guess we'll talk about that in a second, but if you tell me after the first game, they're going around, they're taking pictures, they're exploring what the United States has to offer, right? And as time goes on, there's grief of what happened with Arcadia Bay. Chloe obviously has, now like David survives, right? But Joyce doesn't. So like her mom's dead. And, she can be a sensitive person at times, right? So it's like, okay, does that really get to her? Max loses everybody. Literally, I mean, like I think Kate Marsh was confirmed to be alive through other means. I think Victoria as well. So, okay, Kate was, I think, a legit friend. But anybody else, I mean, like Warren most likely is dead. A lot of these characters are most likely dead. So she loses a lot of people, and just the guilt of it, can that drive you away from the person that you saved it for? Honestly, I think the answer is yes. I actually believe that. And if you wanted to sell me on it, I feel like I would be able to listen. Another thing I was thinking about earlier today, actually, I was thinking, well, what if another like kind of alternate thing that could happen? Like Chloe pushes Max quite often to use her powers, right? And, calling her Super Max and other stuff. Now, I think she learned some lessons because of what happens to Max, as like the game goes. But like, she can't fully understand what Max has been going through. Now, that could be one thing. That could drive a wedge in between you. But what I was thinking is, what if Chloe tried to push Max to use her powers in between, after Life is Strange 2, right? What if just like kind of casually in their romantic relationship, they're traveling, they're doing all this stuff, but Chloe every now and then says, hey, like, can you reverse time so I can do this? Or maybe we can, get some extra money, or maybe we can do whatever. And like, can that mess with Max? I think that could too. Could that drive a wedge in between them? I actually think it could. I really do. I mean, you imagine what Max has gone through, and she knows that, and Chloe knows some of it, but she can't fully, you know what I mean? She can't fully be in that experience. So that was just something I was thinking about earlier, where it's like that one, if Chloe were to like push her to use her powers, maybe that kind of, and honestly, in this statement that Max is saying in this clip, like she says like the time powers. Now, if you're looking at it straightforward, right, you might think, okay, well, obviously the big decision, the big one, causing the storm, potentially causing the storm, and then making your choice. Well, what if she's just talking about like time in general, like using her powers of time has just messed with relationships? Like you can't have a normal relationship because it kind of gets in the way, because it's like an elephant in the room where it's like, well, you can do all these things, you can just reverse, and maybe there's like a lack of trust. There's a lot of things that can happen. Now, my main takeaway, like the last thing I kind of want to leave you guys on with this is, the issue is, I think you can do it. I think I just came up with like 2 or 3 okay ideas. The issue is, I feel like you almost need to see it happen in order for it to be as impactful and as fulfilling as like we want it to be. I think there's a difference between being told the situations that I just said versus seeing it. I think like, again, like the idea that Max is haunted by Arcadia Bay, and like when she sees Chloe, she loves Chloe. She did all of it for Chloe, and that's respectable. But every time she sees Chloe, she sees like some of her dead friends. And I don't necessarily mean like a ghost story, like you have to do stuff like that. But, she is literally haunted by the choice, and maybe she questions it sometimes. And maybe that ticks Chloe off, where it's like, hey, you saved me. I'm right here. Like, were you thinking about redoing it? Would you try to go back in time to redo it? That could lead to fights. That could lead to an actual breakup. I like those ideas. Now, I want the two to stay together. I think that's the whole point of Life is Strange 1. If if you go that ending, but I can see how they can break up. So like the idea that they would never, ever, ever break up, I don't really buy. I mean, I think they should be together. I would prefer a double exposure where Chloe has some cameos and they are, girlfriend. Like, I want that. I really do. But for me, it's like, I would prefer, if you're going to break them up, to show it. Telling us in this game through Max just kind of dropping a couple lines like, yeah, it didn't work out, or, grief got the better of me, or, whatever. I pushed Chloe away, she pushed me away. Doesn't make sense to show it like in the game. It is kind of separate. And like, I guess I get it with like that point of view where it's like, well, to be fair to them, right? It's like, well, where are they supposed to tell you? Because it could have been years ago that this happened. But I mean, see, that's the issue with doing sequels. Like, I think that's just something you kind of have to figure out. Like, that's the baggage that you carry when you decide to do another Max game. And it's just something you have to kind of make work. So like, it might be distracting. It might be something that doesn't, officially fit the tone of double exposure. But I think it's important. I think it's important to a lot of different people. So I don't know. I guess that's my overall thoughts. If you want to break them up, I would hear you out. I would hear, and I mean, that could be blasphemy, but I would hear a breakup of these two characters, but I think you got to do it right. And by doing it right, I mean showing. In this way, it's showing, not telling. It's not telling through like a secondhand story. Somebody else brings it up, or Max kind of just drops it as like, oh yeah, that happened once. Show it happen, because it was so impactful and it's such an important detail that I think it should be something that you actually see how the relationship went versus just being told that the relationship went a certain way. So there you go. You let me know what you think in the comments. What does the clip mean to you? Do you think she's talking about Chloe herself, or do you think she's just talking about grief in and of itself? What do you guys think? Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.